Unmute yourself, mate. So unprofessional.
Oh, such a professional. We're live. It's lads. It's Tottenham. I was on mute. Maybe I was on mute. I was pulling beers during the musical intro. We're live on YouTube, not on X tonight. I'm refusing to pay Musk for a premium subscription these days. But there we go. Them's the break. Sorry, Elon, you can't have it all. I'm joined by two special guests this evening to dissect and discuss all things Tottenham. What is going wrong? Is Ange Postecoglou about to be made unemployed? And look ahead to a fixture at Wolves, against Wolves, I should say. This weekend, I'll be there praying for 3 points, or will I? Thank you, Mr. Perry. It's good to have you watching. You can always join the show anytime you like. If you watch it at home for the first time, do remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and enjoy the show. Let us know what's on your mind, what you think, Ange in or out. Let's take your comments as we go through the show. HG, welcome. How is Vienna?
It's not bad, actually. So it was a very sunshiny, blue sky, bloody freezing day, but I like those ones. So it was good.
That sounds good to me. Matt, how are you? Freezing your tits off in Worcestershire?
Yeah, mate, it's cold down here, but we've had a nice Christmas. Pretty quiet, really. I don't think my wife's left the house for 3 days. But yeah, you know, all nice, isn't it? Until the football starts. All good until Spurs kick off.
Yeah, everyone had a nice Christmas until
and
Spurs
I thought it would be
really.
different. I thought it would be different. I thought surely Boxing Day, Spurs on the telly, away at Forest. I reckon we'll get a draw.
Foolhardy. Well, we're going to look back at the Forest fixture and we're going to look ahead to Wolves at the weekend. So let's start with Forest without further ado. The stats tell us we had 70% possession, HG, but possession does not win you matches, does it?
Well, not when Spurs are involved, no. It's lovely to have, and it should hopefully stop the other team from scoring. But yeah, as with Spurs, we don't stop the other team from scoring. So it's more about how many we can score, and we didn't score any. So that's the review. Let's end it there, huh? I mean, I don't know. It was just a weird game, because it was one of those games where you thought Tottenham might pull one out, but if we did, it was going to go in off someone's backside, or it was going to be a lucky deflection, or you just never really thought that we would create something ourselves. But you never lost hope that could happen. And so it was kind of like a fruitless task in the end. But I don't know, I don't feel like it was a bad performance. I really don't.
Well, the second half sucked. I thought worse than the first, Matt. Sideways mainly, possession, lots of it. Had a couple of chances in the first half. So Sonny had a chance that he sort of passed back to the keeper. Nothing clever about that one. And then you know, HG's favourite player Johnson had a couple of opportunities where, to be fair, he did well to get himself in the position to shoot. But I think he could have done better with the shots. If he'd have kept that, I think it was the second one low, the one that was flying towards the top corner. If he'd have kept that low, I think that was in.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously people who watch this channel know that me and HG aren't big fans of Johnson. But I said in the group, he was probably our biggest attacking threat yesterday.
Yeah, he was.
He was, to be fair to him. And he didn't have a great game, did he? He just got in some good positions. Like you said, a couple of shots. Could he have done better? Maybe, but it's just a hard watch at the minute, isn't it? It's just sort of like, me and HG were talking before we came on live, and I think we were probably better in that game than we were away at Palace.
Oh, we were. Just
because of the nature of results over a period of time, it's just hard to take, isn't it? It's just a bit sort of like, here we go again, same old. But yeah, I think we'll get onto it. HG he brought this up, so he can probably talk about it. But is it the defence that are terrible, or is it how we defend as a team?
Talk about it now.
Let's say if we go back. If we go back to last season, I think we played Wolves twice, and they might have beaten us twice, because Wolves were the type of team that were completely set up to to take advantage of Spurs' weaknesses, right? And Forest are the same, right? So the issues that we had against Forest yesterday are issues that we've seen over the last season and a half, and it doesn't really matter who's fit or who's not. It's like when Spurs are designed to win the ball and to have lots of possession, and yet, weirdly enough, we're not good in possession. And that we're the kind of team that scores most of our goals in transition. If anything, if we did set up like someone like Forest, we may win more games, but there's this belief that we don't want to be that team, and we want to be a team that has the ball and that creates chances and scores lots of goals. And so it's a weird kind of, I mean, it's a word dichotomy, but this idea of like who we are and what we look like are actually two different things, or who do you want to be and what we look like are different things, and it causes problems.
So we are, mate. Gibbo, Nuno's revenge. Was he a bit hard done to by Spurs? You know, tactical masterclass. He's got Forest firing, third in the league. Might not be the most entertaining football, but it's effective. And he did similar at Wolves, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But we're not those clubs, are we? I mean, he came to Spurs. Kane wasn't playing, first of all. I don't think Kane was having him, was he? That was the when Kane did get.
Well, Kane wanted to go to City. I think.
Yeah, he wanted to go, but
I don't think he would have played for Nuno. I think.
But when he came back in the fold, you know, Shearer was a bit like that at Newcastle with certain managers. What did we lose? 5. We lost 5 in a row, didn't we? And we were talking about this as well before, caller. I was at the Man United game where we lost, and you could tell then there's no future. In at that point, then it was pretty clear that there was no future with Nuno. He'd sort of lost the fan base, lost a few of the players.
But yeah, 11 games.
Yeah, well, he did, didn't he? It doesn't matter. He did.
He never had the fan base.
No, but I think,
and that is on the fan base. That's not on Nuno.
No, but when he was at Wolves, he got to do what how moulded him how he wanted to. But we say this about Forest, mate. But I looked at Forest yesterday, and please don't shoot me in the comments or anyone who watches this. We had Son and Johnson out wide. They had Hudson-Odoi. I think he'd walk into our team. He was a constant threat. And Johnson, and they had Elanga. I think they both get into our team. So, like we're saying, and Anderson, the guy who plays in midfield for them, really good player. Morgan Gibbs-White. I heard people saying, if Spurs had gone for Morgan Gibbs-White, the fan base would have been up in arms. No, they wouldn't. You know, me and HG spoke about him before. We wanted Morgan Gibbs-White. He's a great player. They have got good players. Nuno has got good players there.
But like, I mean, you talk about, the thing is, like, everything you say there is true, but you started off by saying, yeah, but Spurs are not that kind of club. We're not like Forest and Wolves. And that, to me, comes down to the real heart of the matter, is that Forest and Wolves are thrilled that they are playing the way that they're playing and they're getting the results that they got. And Wolves made Europe made the quarterfinal of the Europa League, I think, one year, right? They finished 7th twice. For Wolves, that is kind of the best of the best. You don't expect them to be any better. And the same is true of Forest. They're 3rd in the league, they're flying. But if you gave every single Forest fan and said, you've got Conference League football at the end of this season, they would bite your hands off. They absolutely would. And I think that is what it comes down to, is that if you are a team that is looking to gate crash the top 6 or gate crash the European places, then Nuno is probably what you want. And Spurs fans, we don't see ourselves really as being a team that can gate crash the top 4 or can gate crash a title challenge. We don't want to be a club that does that. We want to be a club that actually does it and intends to do it and is the big club that revenue suggests that we should be. And so that's the problem. Like, if Spurs fans were like Nuno 15, 20 years ago, we'd have loved him, because at that point we were a team or a club that never made Europe. And so that would have been exactly what we wanted. And I think for a lot of Spurs fans, that was the issue, is that we kind of felt like we didn't want a manager that could gate crash Europe. We wanted a manager that could take us to the top of the league. And so as much as I don't think Nuno was terrible at Spurs, it was never that fit because nobody, probably including Levy, nobody thought that Nuno was going to be the guy that could do what we wanted, where we wanted to be.
Yeah, and to be fair, HG, at that point, we'd come off the end of the Pochettino era. We'd had Mourinho, and it sort of went south. So at that point, probably fans would probably think we would be getting somebody of a slightly higher stature. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying, that's
that summer, every Spurs fan wanted Conte because he was available. He was the best one available, and he said no, or he turned it down for whatever reason. He turned it down. Okay, and then 3 months later, Levy comes back with 15 million a year, and Conte's like, "All right, I'll do it." Right, but his heart was never in it. And I get that, but it's still that's kind of what happens. Like, what managers are available? Like, people are talking. I've seen in the comments already about getting rid of Ange. What options would there be? Like, what managers are interested?
Yeah.
And that does become a part of it at Spurs because, when I was a kid, there was Deadly Doug Ellis at Villa, and there was the Spanish chairman at Atletico Madrid, and they would sack managers every 6 months, every 9 months, whatever it was. And Levy should have that reputation. It's kind of weird that he doesn't. But I think among
other reputations.
Well, yeah, but exactly. But among the managing fraternity, Spurs are seen as a bit of a head case, and we don't have this. We don't offer stability to managers, and maybe that's the fans, maybe that's Levy, maybe whatever it is. That's the reputation we have probably rightly earned, and so there aren't too many that want to take the challenge on. And to be fair to Ange, he was very open about the fact that this was the challenge he wanted. He wanted to go to a team where he could turn them around. That's what he's done his whole career. Turn teams around and turn them into successes. And unfortunately, I don't think there are many managers out there who enjoy that challenge. They want a job that will help them look better. And
sorry, Gates. No, sorry, I put it in. I thought but I think that Conte, you said his heart wasn't in it. Definitely wasn't in the end. I think it was to start off with. I think I got forget him. He may have come for the money, but I think he was probably promised things which he didn't get. I think we'll probably all agree on that. Like when I look at Ange, and we'll come on to that, and I look at and as we come on to, and we look at Mourinho and we look at Conte, they've got set ways of playing. So they believe they want certain players, and that's what they want. Players who can do certain things. And they never got them. And I think, obviously, Mourinho, we're just talking about Conte now, but I think Conte did lose heart pretty quick when he realised, I'm not going to get what I want. I'm not going to get what I want. I'm not going to be able to push these to where I want to get them to. And he did lose heart. And that's not sticking up for him because I think he stunk the joint out in the end and blew the place up and was pretty poor with how he dealt with it. But, that's different.
I think a lot of it is to do with expectations. Like fans, rightly or wrongly, want to see Spurs not gate crashing. They want to see us challenging. They want to see the club using their revenue wisely because we don't have revenue as an excuse anymore. And for a long time we did. That was the excuse. We couldn't compete for the players because we didn't have the money to do so, and we had to maybe think differently. And now it's got to the point where we have the money to compete, but we're realizing that players maybe don't want to come to Spurs, and the amount of money we have is somewhat irrelevant. But it's kind of I don't want to talk about realities because everyone has a different idea of what that should be. But it does feel as if Spurs fans are maybe somewhat detached from where Spurs are as a club and how they're seen. And I understand why. I don't always agree with it, but there is that disconnect, and to unite behind something is pretty much the only thing we have to get better. And it's really difficult to do that right now when we're in the situation that we're in.
Okay, back to the game. We'll talk about the it's all right, it's fine. I'm here to keep you on track, but I was enjoying the conversation. The goals. So Spence lost the ball halfway inside the Forest half, and from there Gibbs White had about 40 yards to do
on the 18-yard box.
Mate. Yeah, he had 40 yards to do whatever he wanted with the ball, and obviously killed us with a inch perfect pass that was finished clinically. the system doesn't work, does it, Matt? When you look at where we're at in the season, yes, I know there's availability of players, etc. But we just don't seem to be able to do what Ange wants us to do. Or maybe we are doing what Ange wants us to do, but we couldn't break down a low block and we were wide open at the back on the counter, which to me is brain dead.
Before I give all my opinions and stuff, mate, look, mitigation, the squad is crippled with injuries.
Yep.
So I look at it. Yesterday, that team could have started against Forest. Maybe Gray wouldn't have been centre half, but there's no, it could have been if we're sort of got a good squad. There's no reason why Romero or Van der Ven might have been rested, and one of them made a play with Dragusin. So it was pretty much, Forster, Vicario, yeah, but I don't think Forster's been as bad as a lot of people have made him out to be. He's had a couple of mares, but I think he's done okay. He's done okay. But we have been crippled with injuries. But I've always said, I've said for a long time, I'm not Ange. I'm not. But you two guys can vouch for me. I've not been on that train for a long time. I've been questioning it since.
What's the reason then, Matt?
Well, I just think that the way he wants to play football and how he says it, brilliant. I wish that could happen. I've said it a long time ago, and I've probably said it in the cheese room chat group they have and everything. I think for that to work, you need to have pretty much the best team in the league. You need to dominate possession. When you are in good positions, you need to be extremely clinical, which we have at times, but you need to be extremely clinical most of the time. It needs to be perfect. Pretty much perfect all the time. And that is tough. Doing trying to play champagne football with Lambrini players is a hard task. But I just don't think it will work at Spurs consistently. And I want Spurs to be challenging for the top four. I want us to be challenging for trophies. I know we're not, we're miles off winning the league. But we were at a point where we were sort of pushing to do things like that. We've regressed. We need to get back there. And I just don't see it working. I don't see it working when all the players are fit consistently. And we do have good players. I don't think it's just defenders. I think it's how we defend as a team. And I just think there's gaping holes all over the place. And even more importantly than that, I think teams just do know how to play us now. I think there's a blueprint, and people say it, and other people get a little bit dodgy about it. But Gary O'Neill ripped us to shreds on Monday Night Football. Literally gave the idiot's guide how to beat Tottenham. Players come out now and say this is what we knew they were going to do, and that's what they do. So I just can't see it working. I just can't see it being a sustainable way of playing. We're too easy to play against.
So in terms of the goal, the question, let's take that question. Van der Ven would have stopped that counter. Would he have done that, HG?
I mean, I think he would have known what to do in that situation, maybe more than Archie Gray did. But that's not exactly a slight on Archie Gray. He's not a defender. It was an inch perfect through ball, right? I mean, Udogie was barely out of position. I mean, he got done for pace, but that's because Elanga's a real speedster. Udogie couldn't keep up with him. And the pass was perfect. It was timed perfectly and it was placed perfectly. So I would like to think that Van der Ven would do a better job than what Gray did, maybe just by closing Gibbs White down, because someone had to do that. However, I don't know that it would have had a different outcome. So I don't really want to think that that's just that was the issue, that Van der Ven would come in and stop all goals, because I mean he didn't at the start of the season. We've had the problem we had against Forest, we've had all season long, which is if we have the ball and the other team is defending deeply, we don't really know what to do with it. And I didn't watch the Palace game, but there are other games where we've struggled against teams that sit deeply. and we don't know what to do. And so it's like I really don't think that our system was to blame, and I don't think the personnel defensively was to blame yesterday. I think the issue yesterday is the fact that we, despite having all of the ball, we don't create the chances that we should do, considering we have all the ball.
I think that's a fair comment, and I think the problem is that, when your fullbacks are that high up the pitch, and there's that massive chasm of space between the defenders and, in effect, the attackers, you're just asking for trouble. But what, Gibbo, this is I guess this is why you think Ange can't continue in the role, because he does nothing to address that. It's kind of like, except it's glossed over as, well, that's who we are. And if you question me.
I mean, my stance on Ange isn't just based like on that Forest game or a 6-3 pumping by Liverpool. I base mine on like a year's worth of results and similar patterns of how we get beat, and things that I keep seeing and things that aren't addressed. But mate, he's got all the time in the world. He's turned as nobody's anywhere near. Now, players are probably to blame a little bit as well as Ange. But yeah, I mean, he's had the freedom of the park, hasn't he, to run Gibbs right. HG's right. That was a brilliant pass by him. And Elanga, I think, is like the second quickest player in the Premier League. He's in the top 5.
He's rapid. Yeah,
he's rapid, and he's put it in. But yeah, I mean, if we want to get,
but I'm not being funny, Gibbo. No, if I gave you that much space in the middle of the park, I'd expect you to make a decent.
I'd motor, mate. I'd motor up there. I don't know if I get the pass right, but I'd be up there.
What I mean. If you've got all that space to run into,
well,
you're a decent player. You're
players will on the ball.
Good passes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think HG is right. I don't think we defended awfully. We do struggle to break teams down, but like, I don't want to go in on him, but like Johnson, there was a time in that second half where he got the ball out wide, and he's just ran across their box, not going anywhere. And Son, we spoke about the wide men. The wide men just. They're struggling. They're struggling. They don't really create anything. I don't know what they're doing.
Like, let's say that chance that fell to Forest, and let's be honest, it wasn't really a chance. They get the ball on the counter-attack, but instead of it being Gibbs-White, it's Maddison. And instead of it being Elanga, it's Johnson. Do we do what Forest did? No. Don't believe we do. I don't believe the pass would be right. I think Maddison would probably take too long about it. I think Johnson would be waiting for the ball, but kind of wanting it at the side. He wouldn't be running behind. I think that there's a massive part of this here that the players in some cases aren't good enough. The quality isn't there consistently. And I think Gibbs-White has performed consistently for Forest, especially this season, for them to be where they are. And they know what they're good at, and they can do it really well. And when Spurs attack, I don't get that sense.
No.
And I haven't got that sense for a lot of Ange's tenure, not just this season, not just with our various players. I still think that when we have the ball, we don't really know what we want to do with it. And that is on Ange. That is on Ange. We should know how we want to break teams down. We should have an idea of what we want to do. And I don't think we do.
Do you think, HG, the purchase of Johnson, do you think he thought he was getting something different than he's got there?
Possibly.
I'm being serious.
I think the weird thing is that I felt like I knew Ange Ball from watching the odd bit of Celtic, and I didn't watch them often, so I can't sit here and say that I know them. But I felt like the idea was that the wingers stayed wide and they got to the byline and they crossed the ball either to the number 9 who was in the middle or to the attacking midfielders that were crashing the box. I thought that was the idea. And Johnson, to me, has never been that player.
No.
Right? And so that whether he thought he was going to get that kind of player, I can't believe it. But then he went out and got Werner, who in theory is a left-sided version of Johnson. Right? Like, you think he's got the pace to get to the byline, but there's no trickery there, right? For either of them. So, weirdly enough, it feels like those players are designed for through balls, and really, Maddison is the only one that ever really tries those, and they're through balls on counterattacks. Like the goal that Forest scored is the goal that would suit Werner and Johnson, weirdly, if the ball was good enough. But we don't play like that, and if we've got the ball, then all that space that they need to get their pace into the game isn't there, right? Defenders can just show them wide and keep them there, and they just don't have the ability to beat their man and deliver quality. So do I think that I think Johnson, it's weird. I think Johnson is what he is and what he's always been, and I would hope that Ange knew what he was getting, because if he didn't, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, and I'll ask you, caller, when you look at, from what I originally thought Ange Ball would be, you look at our midfield maker, I thought our midfield would be a lot more busier. Say you got Sarri who gets about. I thought that midfield three that we play would literally be just killing teams with how much it got about the pitch and pressing and I know, like I said, I know they've all been playing and there's like tired legs out there, but I'm talking about all the time. I thought they'd be getting around the pitch, and I thought you'd have someone in there who wins the ball back, but does it as well by sort of like moving left to right around the pitch and getting in people's faces and then setting midfielders away. I thought that's what we'd have as well, but we don't. They just fucking go backwards and sideways.
I mean, to be fair, like Johnson comes alive when the ball could go to him. Like if we're in a dangerous area and like Johnson is ready and wants it, but if those situations don't arise, then he's playing on autopilot a little bit, and he's like, I need to be in this area. I'm going to get my body into that area, but I don't really want to track the runner. I don't really want to get involved, but I will look interested. But he comes alive. Like there was a chance early on in the game, I think, that Son had the ball and Johnson was waiting for it and screaming for it and was on his own. And really, he should have been found. But like after a while, I start to think the players don't really want to pass to him. Opposition defenses kind of leave him alone, right? Like it feels like quite often, like there was that famous example in a Liverpool game a few years ago when Sissoko's through on goal and Van Dijk basically says, "Shoot, like I'm going to mark the run of Son, and if you want to go ahead and go have a shot, you can do so because I'm playing the odds." And it feels like sometimes opponents play the odds, and they're happy. Like if Johnson is the one that's left free, so be it. And that's an indictment on everyone. It's not just on Johnson. It's on the team. It's on lots of things. And so we Spurs are in this weird situation that our top scorer is a guy that teams want us to give the ball to. That doesn't seem to happen any other way. But it's a team thing. There's no cohesion going forward. Like if you like Johnson is the type of player that needs to play on the counter-attack, and Spurs don't want to be that team. It's really no coincidence that we struggle. Like Son wants to be a wide striker that makes runs behind the defense and is found through balls. We don't play through balls, right? We don't. We certainly
don't play through balls when he doesn't pick Maddison, which
and that's just it.
Really strange selection.
And Maddison and Son have proven that they're on similar wavelengths. They work well together. But again, if we're pushing Udogie forward, then Maddison kind of has to sit back, and I don't think that works either. So there are lots of things that are on Ange, but right now, I think the injuries are the massive part of it. I really do.
I do think injuries play a part in it, but they're not why we couldn't break Forest defence down, because fundamentally
we've been losing games.
Most of the attacking players are there. And then I don't really buy this argument from a lot of people that if we have our first choice defenders back, everything changes. Because to me, I mean, you touched on it there with the inverted fullbacks. The system is flawed, and I think Gibbo's right. Unless you've got a Real Madrid's 11, peak Barcelona 11, peak City 11, I don't see how it can work at Spurs for Ange personally.
And I'm not having a go at Ange for that. I'm just stating that as how I see it. Because,
I like Ange. He's a
without-
jolly Australian. What's not to like? You probably go around his
And-
house and open a few
yeah.
Castlemaine 4X, chuck another steak on the barbie for you. Got no problems with Ange, unless you're a
But
journalist.
Celtic are a massive deal in Scotland. They are by far the
Scotland.
biggest club.
In
So they are,
Scotland.
though. Yeah, but this is what I'm. So you can go there and force your will on that team and change them to be how they were. And I should imagine it was breathtaking for Celtic fans because he did check. You know, they used to win and everything, but he sort of changed how they did it, and they did it with a swagger, and they could impose their will on teams every week, and they weren't playing the quality you have to play every week. They had a few tough games up there because he never won every game, which happens, but you can do that more consistently there. I don't want to speak about the Japanese league or the Australian league because I've never really watched it. Maybe he could do the same here, but you can't do the same here, and you like I said, I think you're just going to, and I've said it a long time ago, to play it and for it to work consistently well, you are going to have to buy extremely good players, and you're going to need to have more or less the best team in the league.
I mean, like, this is the weird thing. Like, I think the closest thing to how Spurs want to be is probably what Liverpool have been, right? Because City don't do this anymore. City are quite happy to keep 3-4 defenders back and let the rest do the work, right? But Liverpool, they'd keep Van Dijk back, they'd keep the other centre-half back, and the fullbacks were the ones who were pushing on and creating the width and allowed Salah to cut inside. And it's been a really, really good team and a really good system for a number of years. Last season, they tried to bring in, Trent would kind of play in midfield a bit more. And so it's the closest thing, I think, to what Ange is trying to do. However, what they don't do is stick those fullbacks and put them further ahead of the attacking midfielders. That is the thing that I don't understand. And weirdly enough, I think we saw something similar even with Mourinho, that he decided he wanted his fullback to be part of the attacking four. And so that side of the pitch, with like the fullbacks didn't have the pace to get back in time. Like, I don't mind moving defenders into midfield or moving midfielders into attack. That makes sense to me. But if you're going to move defenders into the attacking line, then you have to cover them. And that means you have to have players that can cover. And I don't think that Maddison can. It's not his game. I don't want him doing it. And we don't have a left-sided version of Sarr. And I mean this nicely. I don't think it's Sarr's game either. I don't think he wants to be covering runs. He wants to be winning the ball higher up the pitch. And so it creates the fact we have a back two. And we've seen, even with a really good back two like Romero and Van der Ven, who I do think are really good centre-backs, they can't handle it all game by themselves. It's impossible for them to do it. So if we said to Udogie, right, okay, you move into midfield and stay next to Bissouma, and you say to Porro, you do the same on the other side, and we will push Kulusevski forward, and we will push Maddison forward, or whoever it is, even Bentancur would go down that side. That would be a better use of our players than saying to Porro, we want you inside Johnson up the pitch. Doesn't make any sense to me. And it never has. And so I don't think it's a system, because I think that, 2-3-4-1 or whatever it is we're trying to actually set up as would work if you've got midfielders next to Bissouma or fullbacks next to Bissouma that actually know how to defend. But if you want attacking fullbacks into the attacking line, then you're going to struggle. And we've never got that balance right. We might have balance down the left and we might have it down the right, although even then I don't think we do. But because Son and Udogie, they want to be in the same spot. Like, I feel like Porro and Kulusevski down the right work quite well together. I think Son and Maddison down the left work quite well together. But if you're going to do that, then to me, that means Porro is your right winger with Kulusevski inside, and Son is your left winger with Maddison inside. And then you need to have other people playing in those midfield roles, people that are more aware defensively, and we don't have them. We don't have defensive midfielders, not really. Bissouma likes to sit, but we don't have those fullbacks or defensive midfielders, or someone like a Ward-Prowse who likes to play in that defensive midfield area, but is quite comfortable at fullback too, right? We don't have that at Spurs. And so that to me is causing half the issue. It's one of those weird things that, like, if Spurs are going to look at buying players, I actually think it would be easier to find people that would improve our defensive structure than it will be to improve our attacking structure. But if you get the defensive structure right, then it's all about how good you are attacking. And I think that there are 5 or 6 that work well together that we could create something. But right now we've got a bunch of good to very good players in a system that doesn't really suit any of them or many of them.
He ain't going to do that though, is he, lads? He's not like what the things we're. I mean, like for mitigation to people, if people haven't watched this before, these aren't things that we're just coming up with now, are they? These are concerns. I can safely say that the 3 of us on this show tonight have been talking about these things for months.
Well, I mean,
even last season.
We said the summer window was shit. It was.
Yeah, we did say that. I mean,
we said the system is fundamentally flawed with these players. It always has been, and Ange is got limitations in the Premier League. So I suppose that takes me on to the question, should Ange go?
No.
If we lose to Wolves, hypothetically speaking,
no,
as I think we may at the weekend, and this is where there's 88, 90 of you watching this live right now. Let us know in the comments, do you think Ange in or out? And while you're there, just hit the subscribe and like button as well for me as well. Top job. Right, HG, you're saying no, and why is what I want to know. And I do need to refill my beer, and I know you don't like to be particularly concise. So if you two could debate this for a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, go and get yourself a drink. Okay, look, I'm very much Ange in that. I mean, and it's not because I love Ange's system, and it's not because I love Ange. I'm just aware that I don't think there's a manager out there that would do better with the players that we currently have. Like, if everyone's fit and we're getting these results, then I may very well be Ange out. But we're playing an 18-year-old kid at centre back who's not a centre back. Yes, there are issues, but if you switch Ange out now and you bring in what? I mean, you give Ryan Mason a semi-final. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that there are managers out there who are desperate to come in and show that how much better they are than what Ange is doing. I really don't believe that. So yeah, I'm very much Ange in, but that doesn't mean I love everything he does. I just think that right now it would be madness to sack him because there's really no one else.
When you just said about Ryan Mason coming in, I think that's an issue as well. Apparently, Ange is very much a guy that manages, tells his coaches what he wants doing, and they do that on the training ground. Now, Mason, he's just the token Spurs guy, isn't he? And I look at the other coaches he's dragged it, and I'm thinking, is that an issue as well? I mean, I've digressed a bit there. I'm at the point where I think, what's the point in keeping him? I just don't see the point. I get what you're saying about injuries, HG. I totally do. But and people say, well, who would come in? I think Marco Silva would leave Fulham at the drop of a hat to come to Spurs. People say he won't, but he's done that all his career.
Yeah,
he's moved. And I think he's a better coach than Postecoglou, because people say, what style of football do you want? There has to be they play good football. Fulham do when they go football. Are they brilliant defensively? Are they solid? Maybe like Forest? No, but they can defend if they need to. They sort of know what they're doing. They can be set up to defend better as a team and as a defensive unit. I'm not saying he's the guy I'd go for. That's not down to me. But I think there are people out there who are, like I was speaking to my father-in-law this morning. People know in here, big Villa family, and I said to him when they sacked Gerrard, where they wanted Emery, mate. That was it. He was the guy, and they went and they got him.
Yeah,
they did what they needed to do to get him in the building. That's what they did.
Yeah. I mean, I see the comments here, like the type of manager that's going to come in and solidify things, which is clearly what people seem to want, is going to be someone like David Moyes, right? And now, to me, David Moyes would be an extremely short-term thing,
6
right?
months.
Yeah, but again, I don't want Spurs to be that kind of club. Like, I understand that no one likes the fact that we're losing, but like if you could say to me, yeah, like I think Graham Potter would be interested and would come, then I might be tempted. But even then, it's a might, because I look at what we have and I think, like, if Spurs lose to Wolves on Sunday, which they easily could, right? If we do, does it really change how I feel about Ange? No, it doesn't. Maybe it should, but it doesn't. Like, there's a very good chance that we'll have 0 centre-backs available, and we'll be playing Alfie Dorrington, who, again, maybe, because Dorrington wasn't even on the bench on Sunday. Oh, yeah, Sunday. I forget what day of the week it is. Thursday in the last game, right? It's just, so I understand. I just don't see a logical reason. Like, we have massive injuries. Like, the squad wasn't strong enough to begin with. We all said that at the start of the season. We got rid of experience, we replaced it with inexperience, but the numbers were basically the same, and the numbers weren't big enough last year. And we had more games this season, and we knew that. So I feel like, yes, Ange has made mistakes, and I saw the comment about how results weren't great at the start of the season. Yeah, we weren't winning every game, and we were found out a couple of times, and I agree. But to me, that was more, then I could say it's more on the fact that, yeah, like we're set up wrong, and we're not putting players in the best place they need to be for them to perform, and for Maddison to get the goals and assists that we know he can. He needs to be further up the pitch. He doesn't need to be playing like Pirlo. He should never be playing the ball forward to Udogie and then Udogie turn around and look for a through ball. That, to me, is a waste of everyone's talents. And when I see that, that makes me mad. But I just know, like, right now, I am still Ange in, and I don't see it changing until we get the players back, or we get a better idea of really how he's going to go about making things better. And he can't make things better when he doesn't have any centre-backs.
I absolutely agree, mate. I agree. I agree with those points. But this guy has consistently got worse results than better results over a year, more or less. He has consistently got worse. If you look at the results, and I don't care about XG and all that shit.
Well, HG.
I do care about HG. He knows that. We have good chats, me and HG, about stuff, and we can be quite honest and open.
We both don't rate Johnson. That's the biggest thing we have in common, and that's great.
But he's consistently got worse results than he has good results, hasn't he? And I look at it and I think, yeah, we're wherever we are in the league now. Will we? I don't think we'll get drawn into a relegation battle. I don't think it will become that bad.
If you carry on going the way we're going, we will.
Yeah, but I don't think it will. That will happen if he has lost the players and lost the confidence of the players, and they sort of give up on it, which players do. But I look at it and think, you know, if there's someone out there you can go and get, and Champions League's probably gone for us. It probably has. But Europa League, well, it has. It has gone then. Europa League is going to be extremely tough, but we need to be finishing as high as we can in the league, and I can't see us winning the cups we're in either. So, you know, would I do it right now? I would probably give him the next 2 home games and say, "Come on, we need something now." But I just don't see it. I don't see it long term either. That's probably why I feel like this, because I just don't see any future in it. I think if he doesn't, I think he always tends to get a good result in between all the mediocrity. You know, like City away was a great result. United away was a great result for us, but everybody's beating them. United are losing at Old Trafford quite frequently now.
Yeah.
And you know, the City result was fantastic on the night, you know, to score 4 goals up there, but they're in a terrible run of form. They're not playing well at all, but you still got to beat them. You still got to beat the Southampton result, mate. They're fucking awful. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't see the point. And I think if there's someone out there that you want, you go and get them. Nobody will agree with everyone on who they think, but I think Potter would do a better job. I genuinely do. I think
But
Eddie
not
Howe
with
would
the
do a
players
better
we
job.
currently have. He wouldn't. I don't believe that.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. I think he will. And I think he would. I think he would if you maybe got a couple of players back then. HG, yeah, maybe you're right. But once a couple of players come back, I think there's more.
Yeah, but then that's a different conversation. When we've got different players come back, then you'd expect the results to improve with Ange in charge.
But I wouldn't, HG. That's my problem.
Really, you don't think we'd get better if we have actual defenders playing in defence?
Well,
but I think we'd still be.
I'd like to think so. However, there was a good point made earlier. I think Palace away, or was it Palace at home?
Yeah.
We had pretty much
Palace away.
Had a pretty much full squad, and we stunk the place out. We saw it against Ipswich. You didn't have that many players out against Ipswich. We were shit. And early on in the season, we were incredibly patchy with a full squad. I don't think that Potter, as you've mentioned him, Matt, I like Potter. I know a lot of people don't, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think he plays a progressive brand of football, and I think tactically he's far more astute than Ange. And if he's available, go get him and continue to rebuild with him.
What was Potter's biggest problem at Brighton?
Scoring goals.
Right. So how is that going to change anything? Right? It doesn't. It means we'll be a bit more pragmatic, right? But it doesn't change anything. The reason we're losing, the reason we lost is because we didn't score a goal, right? It wasn't the defense. So to me, it'd be lovely to get Romero back. It would be lovely to get Van der Ven back, but we still conceded at least one a game with them. The issue is going forward, right? And so do you think Potter's going to be a better solution going forward than Ange? I don't see it. And I like Potter too, but I don't see that being the issue.
I think he may be because
why? What evidence?
I'm going to explain if you let me.
We've scored 39 goals this season. That was a whole season for Brighton.
Let me talk.
But seriously, explain it. But there's nothing in Potter's history that shows that his teams will score more than Ange's do.
Well, I'm not. Well, Ange's team has scored loads.
You want him to get more points.
They've done it in bunches, haven't they? That's the reality.
The points are, I'll let Caller carry on.
He wouldn't be playing Maddison behind a doggy, which then releases Maddison to actually create better chances for the forwards, and we've got better forwards than Brighton had. So there is some logic there, HG. Silva, I'd take him. I'd take the guy at Brighton. What's his name, Iriola?
Bournemouth, he's at.
Bournemouth, that's what I mean. So there's lots of there's lots of managers out there who, in my opinion, could be more pragmatic, but just as effective up top. Well, maybe not just as effective, because when we score big, don't we? We score like 4 or 5.
But we have to use the word pragmatic. We don't need them to be pragmatic.
I don't need them to be pragmatic. I just need to play a sensible formation.
Fulham,
and organise the side.
Newcastle.
Maybe coach some defensive tactics.
They're not pragmatic sides. They're sides that can cope with most aspects of the game. They're not pragmatic. There's not many pragmatic, when you talk about that, teams around anymore. There's not, these teams who we're talking about above, they're not just pragmatic sit back. They can do everything, and they can cater for whatever team they play against. I think my justification with the Ange thing is that when we were talking about them at the start of the season with a full team, when it was all going pretty okay at the start of the season, I said, and you can back me up on this, I've said for a long time, this team, and I was talking about it without the injuries, we are going to sleepwalk into mid-table. I did say that, didn't I, HG? I've said that quite a few times. Yeah. So that's how I can I can't articulate myself as well as you and Caller, but that's why I believe what I believe. From what I've seen, just from what I've watched, from what I've witnessed, from looking at results, from seeing what I've seen with my eyes, that's what I believed we were going to get served up this season. And is that maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking.
This is the funny thing. I feel like I've sat here and even contradicted myself, and I'm sure I have in many ways, but I just Caller doesn't remember, but it's okay. I do.
I do.
is that there's this understanding that, like, do I think we'll get better when we have defenders in the team? Yes. Right? I think we'll get better defensively. Right? Do I think that means clean sheets? No, I don't. And that is probably on Ange's system. Do I think that if we played different players in those roles, that the system could turn out and be what we wanted? Yes. Do I think that we can score goals if we had our front five actually working together as a unit? Yes. Do I think that we have those players? Maybe not. Do I think that Ange was started the season with a poor squad? Absolutely, I do. I really do. I think it was like I worked out that we had 25 first team players, including the under 21s that were listed. We had 25, 14 foreigners, 8 homegrown, and 3 under 21s. And then you throw in Lancashire and Moore, who haven't played that much anyway, but they're still not listed as first team players on the website, right? 25 seems like a decent amount. And then you think, well, one of them's Reguilon, who can't get a game, will never get a game unless everyone is injured, right? 2 of them are the 3rd and 4th choice goalkeepers, right? So they're never going to play. So suddenly you're down to 22 players. And then you take out the ones you don't think are particularly good, which for me would be Werner and Johnson. You're down to 20 players. And then you think, well, that still includes Spence, who barely got a game.
That's on Ange.
Yeah, and then you include Bergvall and Gray, who, let's face it, at 18, you can't expect them to come in and do amazing from day one. And they've both done pretty well, if I'm honest. But we gave ourselves, 17 experienced first-team players that were trusted enough by Ange to be part of this. And we played, 6 Europa League games already. We've got 2 more coming. We're still in the EFL Cup. We were completely underprepared for what we had ahead of us.
100%. 100%.
And so, there's so much more we should have done. And I know people will say, well, we couldn't name everyone, in that we struggled to name everyone as it was for the Europa League. But the Europa League is 8 games. Like the Premier League, we're going to play 19 before January comes around. That's what matters. And we left ourselves short deliberately. And Ange came out and said, oh, well, we can't sign players because Vuskovic is going to come and we've got all these other possibles. Yeah, but he can't come until next summer. So what are we going to do? Just give up on this season? The irony being is that next year Spurs almost certainly won't have Europe. And so the squad that we have might be perfectly set up for the season that we're going to play. But I still wouldn't necessarily believe that, because we saw last year that even with experienced players, we struggled to cope. I find that the squad was awful to begin with. Ange has not done the best job when everyone was fit. And now, when no one's fit, we're looking to change things. And I don't see the logic in any of those, frankly. I just wish that we figured things out and that Ange was able to say, right, our best team when all our players are fit doesn't involve Johnson. To me, that's very obvious, but to him, it hasn't been. And that's fine. We can disagree on that. But it just, I don't know. There are so many things that Spurs as a club have got wrong that to me, it's not a surprise that we are where we are. And I don't really put all of that on Ange.
Well, he said we want experienced players now, HG, but we let him get an experienced player in last January.
Yeah.
He didn't say that at the start of the summer, at the start of the transfer window in the summer. He was happy with it all.
And
this is great.
And that's the funny thing. Like when he brought Timo Werner in, I said I wrote on my Facebook page that I don't rate Werner, don't like Werner. However, if we're not going to play Brian Hill, then I guess it makes sense because we're bringing in a body that Ange might possibly use. And he used him, right? And Werner started a number of games at the end of last season and was part of the team. And to be fair, did okay, right? But I didn't want him to sign again. I was like, right, if Brian's going, which we all knew was going to happen, we're going to get someone in. And we brought Werner in and we brought Odobert in and Mikey Moore's at 17, you never know. But again, Moore is 17, you can't expect much. And Odobert got injured, the poor sod, right? So but they were all for the future. And so it's like, well, is Werner suddenly still the next best left winger we have after Son, who doesn't really suit things? It's just really poor from everyone at Spurs. And so, I don't think it should be a surprise that we are where we are and that we're losing games to good teams, because Forest are a good team.
They are a good team.
Wolves will play well and probably beat us. But so much has led to this that I don't believe is all on Ange.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Wolves, because there is a game on Sunday. And this show's an hour long, and we've got 3 minutes to preview it. So what can we expect from Wolves, Gibbo? Their best player, Cunha, has been suspended today, 5 games for violent conduct. So that's got to be a plus, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's a plus. But I mean, you'll probably know more about them than me, because your old man supports them, doesn't he? But you're probably expecting a team. I mean, they do quite well at our stadium, don't they? They've
do.
got a
and they're playing for
half-decent
the
record
manager
away.
at the moment. They are
and they've got a new manager,
gaffer,
get a bit of a bounce. Obviously, Kuhn will be a big miss for them. They'll work hard, won't they? And they will almost definitely won't come and try and take us on at football, will they? They will sit back.
Well, my dad says Huang will likely come into the starting 11, and Geddes is playing. Geddes is playing brilliantly at the moment, so there are some good options for Wolves. I would imagine they'll be very similar to Forest, compact and spring on the break. So their new gaffer apparently takes great pride in defensive organisation. So, that doesn't bode well. What's for us? Obviously, we're at home. Most of the attackers are fit. It's just a defensive headache. Spence suspended. And obviously, Dragoshin is out with an injury. So
I think he'll be fit. They're talking about that.
Davis apparently is coming back into the fold. So.
Mate, he's 2 weeks. He's had a setback in training.
Okay, 2 weeks. Oh, there you go.
I think we'll beat them. I don't think they're very good. I know they've had a new manager bounce, but I don't think they're great. And like I said, I think Ange usually gets a result amongst all the other mediocrity. I think, like I said, everybody's different, and what will be, and it'll play out however it plays out. But I think he will get a result against them. That'll keep everybody happy. Well, that'll keep him. That'll keep him there. Yeah. He should beat Tamworth in the FA Cup, which will be enough, because we'll be in the next round of the FA Cup, and I think that's probably how it will go on till the end of the season.
Yeah,
and then they'll part ways. That's just how I see it. Like, what I personally want to happen will make no difference, and I think we'll beat Wolves. I think we're desperate for a win, and I think we'll be at home. And I think they've had a bit of a bounce, but losing their best player, I think they'll come unstuck, and we'll beat them.
I mean, this is it. Like, Spurs have no excuses going forward. Like, it's very clear that we could play our best midfield and our best attack, because we don't really have issues there, right? Now, you could disagree as to who those players might be, but to me, we're not short of options. We're not short of numbers. We might be short of good options, but still, we should have enough to score. The question will be, are we good enough to dominate the ball like we did at Forest, right? Can we stop Wolves from like attacking when they get the chance? And that's the question. Like, because our back four, even if Dragoson's fit, we're looking at, I mean, basically Udogi, Gray, Dragosin, and Porro. That would be it, right? Spence is out. We don't really have anyone else. So you hope that would be enough. But to me, the game should be all about our front six. Like, do we trust Bergvall more than Bissouma? I think we might now, right? But if Bergvall comes in, like, he's probably not going to start, which means that Bentancur will be the 6. And if Bentancur, then who comes in? It's probably going to be Sarr. And suddenly it's very similar to the side that played at Forest and got beat, right? So I wouldn't do that. I would probably start Bissouma, and I would probably have Bentancur next to him. And I would have Madison there, and I would have Kulusevski down the right.
Yeah.
And I would say, right, like, our midfield 4 is going to try and keep the ball away from Wolves. We don't have defensive players. So, you know what? But let's not push Porro forward as much, right? Because we don't have Sarr or anyone trying to cover. And we don't need to push Udogi up as much. And we can say, right, Madison, you go and you attack that kind of half space on the left-hand side. And Kulusevski and Bentancur can do that. We don't have midfield runners. Like, Liverpool scored how many goals against us by having runners from midfield that we didn't track? Spurs don't do that. we sit on the edge of the box and Solanke's all in there by himself and we just play nice little sideways passes. We don't make runs off people, and so we struggle. But there's really no excuse when it comes to Spurs, when it comes to the front six. We need to find a way to make it work, and if we don't, then to me that is going to be on Ange.
Well, we might have to beat them 6-2, aren't we, HG?
I don't like we've seen that we can score in bunches.
Yeah.
Right?
Get an early goal and we'll probably win. The longer
maybe.
it goes on, the more painful.
I don't know. We got an early goal against Chelsea and we lost. I mean, it's there's no guarantee of anything. I feel like the balance. I've said this a lot, but the balance between defense and attack has been wrong all season, and the balance down the left and right doesn't really work most of the time. And we're far too narrow when we attack. You know, we have our wingers that want to cut in or want to be on the end of things, so they need to be close to the 6-yard box. But we don't put the one or two creative players that we have. Like Maddison needs to be on the pitch to do anything, and Kulusevski weirdly seems to create more from out wide than he does from it down the middle or wherever he is. We haven't got that balance right and found the people that work well together, and that's why it doesn't work a lot of the time, and that's a problem. So yeah, I think I want to be positive and think Spurs will win, but I don't really trust our front six to put it together. So at best, I would say a draw.
I think we win.
And if this is true, then Cunha's available to change.
I don't think that'll make any difference. I think we'll win, but then I think we'll go on to lose a few, and then we'll beat Tamworth. Then we'll go on to lose a few, and then we'll beat someone else. And then we'll
give me your score predictions then, Gibbo. Score prediction?
I think I'm going to say 4-2.
Bloody hell. Okay, 4-2. HG?
Yeah, 1-1.
I'm going to go with a 2-1 defeat. We'll take the lead and everyone will think, yeah, here we go. And Wolves will score from 2 corners. I should put a bet on this.
Well, he'll go if we lose, won't he?
I don't know.
He will go.
No, he won't.
No, HG doesn't think so. I'm not sure if he does go, to be honest.
What about this scenario before we go? I know you want to go. What if we've got 3 home games? Liverpool at home, Wolves at home, Newcastle at home. Liverpool's a cup game.
Yep.
What if we lose all 3 of those?
And we easily could.
I know HG. You're saying you don't want him to. I'm saying, do you think there will be a point where they'll go? Got to go.
No, I mean I think they should realise by now that they themselves have handicapped him and made it difficult, right? But you know, this is it. Like by the end of January, there's we would still physically be in the Carabao Cup. We would almost certainly still be. I think it's guaranteed that we're still going to be in Europe. Even if we lose the next 2 games, we finish in the top 24, so we have a chance to continue, right? And maybe we've got 4 players back from injury by the end of January, and you start to look at it and think, okay, maybe we can attack from there. And yeah, maybe the best we can hope for in the league is top 7, right? And that's not what Levy wants. But they should surely have an understanding as to why we are where we are. The idea that we should sack a manager when we've got over half of our foreigners out of the squad doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. And I'll be honest, I feel like we did the same to AVB a little bit, right? Like AVB got sacked for having a much better record than what Postecoglou has now. But people were upset because it wasn't what we were losing to the big teams, and we got done 5-0 at home by Liverpool, and yet that team had Capoue at centre back and Norton at left back, and it was clear that we were struggling for numbers then. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm no real fan of AVB's football, but we'd won 8 games and we'd lost 5 at that point in the season when he was sacked. So. That to me was a mistake because we got Sherwood in who was rubbish, right? And so the
same Sherwood who discovered Harry Kane.
Yeah, exactly. The one and only Sherwood, who seemed to be the only person who understood that Kane existed. So it just we didn't have a plan then, when we wouldn't have a plan now, and so I don't see it. I think we bought well last summer. It just wasn't for this season. We bought well for a couple of seasons from now. And so maybe in 2 seasons, whoever's the manager then will come in and have a Spurs team that looks decent. It'll have a bunch of 20, 21-year-olds that you'll think, great, we've got a team now. But for this year and next year, we don't have it. So, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling again. But I just think that if Spurs, even if Spurs lose all 3 home games, I still think Ange has a job. I think he should have a job. Whether he will do is different, but I think he should.
My take on it, the second the stadium turns on Levy, which I think it will on Saturday if we go behind, Ange is a goner, because we all know that when the heat comes on Levy, his default response is to fire the manager. But we shall see. It's been a pleasure sharing time with all of you at home, and yourself, Gibbo, and yourself, HG. Please do remember to hit the like button, subscribe. We'll be back Monday, Gibbo. Monday? Leon says he's available, so you better get a show out.
We should definitely do a show with Leon.
Yeah,
if Leon can do Monday, we'll try and get Leon on. I was trying to. We've just been talking about we got Wolves, and I'd already gone out in the air. That's how interested I am in them at the minute. But yeah, we'll do some at Monday, mate.
Good man. Right, and until next time, come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs.